Hi crafty friends, Melissa Minor here. Thanks so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. Today I'm playing along with some friends for Simple Stories Saturdays, and this is where we use some of our favorite Simple Stories products to create a layout. Be sure to check out the description box below for a playlist to all those that are creating in today's hop. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on today's layout. I have the 12 by 12 Simple Stories softball sticker sheet. I love all of these stickers. I do think I'm going to use that softball title. And then I also have just one sheet of the pattern paper, and this is the one with all the softballs on it. The back side has like a softball field, but I'm going to use the one with the softballs. Now today's layout's going to come together very quickly because I'm also using an Allison Davis sketch. Her sketches are available on the Scrapbook Generation website, which I will leave the one I'm using today linked below. I have 4 photos I'm scrapbooking, and this is my daughter Tatum in the center with a couple of her friends. And this was just the other day for the softball floats for the homecoming parade. She's a junior this year, and so I really cherish these memories, and I definitely want to get these scrapbooked for her. So I have 4 of these photos, and I've printed them to the sizes that were indicated on the sketch. So 3 of these photos are 2.5 by 2.5, and then the one photo, my focal photo, is 2.5 by 3.5. So I went ahead and I cut a piece of white cardstock, and this is measured 9 by 9, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Now I'm using some liquid glue to put this down because I am going to get out my sewing machine and do some stitching. That's not something I do very much of. In fact, I'm very amateur at it, but you know, you can't get better unless you practice. So I'm going to practice on today's layout. So I went ahead and glued that down. I am going to bring in my ruler here just to check to make sure that I have it equal on all 4 sides. And I can't believe it. I eyeballed this and got it perfect on the first try. Next, I'm going to bring in a few of little paper strips, and I cut these all to the dimensions in the sketch. So let me show you these. So I've got some really thin ones, a little bit thicker, some shorter, some longer. And I'm also going to use liquid glue on these because whenever you glue these down, if you use a tape runner, that has a tendency to gum up your needle on your sewing machine. So I like to use the wet glue just to get these all glued down. This little blue piece of paper here, I actually cut this from some Scrapbook.com glossy cardstock. I looked all through my stash for a blue that was similar to the blue in this Simple Stories paper, and this is the only one that I could find. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this. Now if you see a shadow off to the corner of the screen, that's my kitty cat Pepper, and he is coming to help me scrapbook. All right, so I have the blue pieces down, and now I'm going to go ahead and put these yellow cardstock strips on. Now I am using some close to my heart pattern, or some close to my heart cardstock, so it is two-toned, so I'm being sure to check that I have the right color up and down. I set Pepper off to the side so that he could play, and now I'm going to finish the layout. He seemed to want to take these paper strips and play with them. So I've got my golden yellow glued down, and I'm also going to glue down the red. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention is sometimes I always feel like, okay, my daughter's school colors are black and gold, so I always have to use black and gold. And you'll see in today's layout that's not the case. I was inspired by the colors that are in the pattern paper and the stickers. So the blue in the background, and then we've got the softball yellows, or the softballs, which are yellow, and then the stitching on the softballs, which is all red. So those are the colors that I'm using. You'll see here I'm overlapping these little pieces of cardstock strips. I'm going to get them all adhered down, and then off camera I'll take this over to the sewing machine and I'll just do some stitches right through the center of these, and I want to make them a little bit messy. So some of them I'll go back and forth a couple times. I'll leave the thread just kind of wherever it lands, so nothing neat. You'll notice I also distressed the edges of the white cardstock there before I put that down. I do like that like grungy look, so I did distress the edges with my edge distressing tool. I use an edge distressing tool that I picked up off Amazon, and I know there's lots out there, but I love the one that I picked up on Amazon. Any products that I use in today's video, I'll be sure to link down below in the description box, and I always appreciate when you shop my links, as I do earn a small commission at no extra charge to you. So thank you to all those that shop my links. That does help me out here a little bit on YouTube. All right, so I've got the pictures, I think, where I want them. I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the sewing machine now and get this stitched, and then I'm gonna bring it back and begin some mixed media. So you can see here, it's kind of hard to see, but I do have the stitching in there, and I'm trying to decide which way I want the direction to go. I feel like one of the blue cardstock pieces there got a little wonky on me, and so I'm trying to see where I could best camouflage that at. Now I'm bringing in some Shimmers paints, and I believe this color is called Me and Blue, and it's again that blue color. This is not any, I did not treat my cardstock with gesso, so my paint here is gonna soak into the cardstock. Now if I wanted it to move around, I could have put some gesso down, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put some blue paint here, and this is gonna mainly be behind my focal photo. So the photo that is the largest, the 2.5 by 3.5 inch photo. All right, so I did a few splatters, and now I'm gonna go ahead and use these pieces of pattern paper. I'm only going to mat this one photo, so my focal photo. So I'm using this other piece of pattern paper that came in the Simple Story softball kit. It has like these little hearts on it. Now you can barely tell it's hearts, but I think that's super cute, just kind of peeking out from the edges there, and then also the softball paper. I'm gonna go ahead and adhere my picture to the photo mats. So the photo mats are kind of tilted off to the side, but then my photo is just straight on. So I have that ready. Now I want to bring in my photos, and I also want to bring in some foam. So this is just some craft foam, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some foam on the back of each of these photos just to pop them up a little bit off of the page. So this is gonna bring in a little extra dimension to my page. So I'm putting a foam piece behind my focal photo, and then I'll also add some foam to my other photo. So I'm just gonna cut this down, and we'll get these stuck down. Now, one of the photos, I don't get a piece that's quite big enough, so I do end up peeling it up and then putting a larger piece of foam behind it. I think it's this one over here on the right. I'm also bringing in my trusty T-square ruler, and that's just to make sure that I get these all lined up correctly across the page. Now my focal photo, I want it to not be even with the rest of the photos, but the square photos I all want across the same line here. So I will go ahead and stick down my photos that are going to be on the outside edges, so I know that they're correctly spaced from the outside in. And then I can just evenly space my photos that are here in the center. So I'll get these stuck down. I'm having trouble getting this glued down, which is okay because later I do go back in and peel this photo up and add, like I said, a larger piece of foam here. All right, so let me get this one glued down. And aren't these the cutest photos? So unfortunately this year I wasn't able to attend the homecoming parade due to work. I think this is the very first parade that I've missed since my daughter's been in school. So I was very thankful for some of the moms to post these pictures on Facebook that I grabbed from them. And then Tatum also sent me the one selfie of her and her friends. And what's so funny about these photos is they are the Monroe City Panthers. And if you'll notice on that far right photo, the sign, it says Monroe City Panthers. One of the girls that made the poster forgot the H in Panthers. So I definitely did not want that photo as my focal photo. but I wanted to include it on the layout because that is a funny memory from the parade. All right, so I have these stuck down and I'm just giving them a little press, and I do think I like the way this is looking. I did bring in a little bit more of the paint because a lot of the mixed media was covered up, and I did want that to show behind my focal photo. This softball sticker is absolutely perfect. Now I did use my powder tool and I removed the stick from all the stickers that I'm using today so that I could move them around like die cuts and really just audition them around the page. So I added some foam to the back of the word softball because since my photos had foam on the back of them, I needed the foam on the title as well so it could go up on the same plane. Now I had a piece of foam on that L, and I did go ahead and remove that so that it could lay down flat against that photo. Now I'm bringing in a few more stickers from the Simple Stories softball sticker sheet. I've got the little softball up there to the right, upper right of the photo. And now I'm going to bring in a blue star, a red star, and I think I have a yellow star as well. So in the sketch, on Allison's sketch, this is the 4 photo sketches, sketch number 9. So when you purchase her sketches, if you're not familiar with how this works, she has her sketches in bundles. So they're very inexpensive, and you purchase a download and you get 10 sketches in each little bundle. There may be more in others. I've never received less than 10. So I can only speak to the ones I have. I have a lot of them. And what I like to do is I print them out and then I put them in the little protective sleeves and then I add them into a binder. So that way when I'm ready to create, I can pull out one of my Allison Davis sketches and I will have all the measurements and I'm all ready to go. Now sometimes I like to follow these sketches exactly, and sometimes I just use the sketches as inspiration. Now these are perfect. I bought these from Scrap and Happy Studio. I've had these in my collection for quite a while. I think they're still available on her website, but I just couldn't pass these up because these are like the, what do you call them? Not epoxy flare buttons, but it's like the fabric. I'm not sure if that's what they're called. I'll have to look it up. But anyway, I have these buttons here, and these high school ones, they were in black and gold, and that's her colors. And so I thought it was just too perfect to get. So there were several of them in there. One says junior year, one says high school years, high school memories. So those were just great. I did add a little bit of tangled thread to the behind that button. And now I'm bringing in the date stamp. That's often one thing that I forget to do. I want to remember the year and the date. So this was October 10th, 2025. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm getting nervous here to stamp directly on my layout, and I'm trying to figure out where I want it. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp it here on the piece of the yellow cardstock. I think that's a good spot for it. And it turned out perfect. Now this is a stamp that's like a forever stamp. So it has 20 and then a line, and you write in the year. So I wrote the 25 in there. So I'm going to hold this up close to the camera so you can see all the detail. I love the way this turned out. If you've enjoyed today's video, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. And don't forget to check out the description box below for a link to the playlist for all those that are playing along with Simple Stories Saturday. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!